with, what does sales enablement really do? And by definition, according to the Sales Enablement Society, it's about getting sellers in the right conversations, the right time, the right way, that ultimately leads to increased productivity and revenue. Let me repeat that last piece. Increased productivity and revenue. Otherwise, we're IT, and I mean no disrespect to IT at all. They've saved my career a number of times. But what I mean here is, with IT, they're your best friends when something is broken. Am I right? Or is it just me? That's not our goal. Our goal is to weave enablement throughout the fabric of the company so that we are prepared for when those things do go wrong, because they're going to happen, invariably. Regardless of how successful your company is, there are going to be challenges. And they could come from competitive, it comes from internal politics at times, it comes from the natural maturation cycle of a company. So inside of that sales enablement, I believe there are 3 components. The first is communications, and that starts with the onboarding program of ensuring, let me step back, it starts at the interview process. So when I ask a question, in room for my practitioners of sales enablement, by show of hands, how many of you are actually a part of the interview cycle for your sellers? 1, 2, you and I. Cocktails later, we'll talk. I believe that in every company, the head of sales enablement should be a part of that interview process. And why is that? Because of a number of reasons. 1, we have a different set of lenses. 2nd, our BS filter is a lot higher. And thirdly, we are looking at the propensity for long-term success of these sellers. We know what the roadmap looks like. So we can ask those questions right away to understand if we are hiring the right people. Now, we all talk about ICP, Ideal Customer Profile, right? I want to interject a new acronym because we don't have enough acronyms in the world. IEP, the Ideal Employee Profile. Because as your company grows and as you mature and as the competitive landscape changes, I guarantee you the type of seller that you hire in early stage of your company, as you mature and grow, that will change as well. You know, whether you're initially a volume velocity sell, so you need someone that can get those transactions through, and as you grow into that enterprise space, it becomes what? More of a relationship sell. So you've got to make sure that as you are growing, you are adjusting not only your hiring cycles, but also that IEP along the way that it's iterated. What does that mean? Working closely with HR to understand not just the hiring roles and profiles and job descriptions, but really job definitions and how that's changed. It's beyond just responsibility. It's about what are they going to do to add to the overall success of the company, and where does that individual fit in? The next piece is around collaboration. And that, to me, is taking all of the legacy info from your seasoned sellers and making sure that that spreads across the organization. Look, there's going to be churn. People are going to come and go. Careers are going to shift. The key here is, how do we harness that tribal knowledge? How do we harness some of those best practices? How do we harness that content that as folks move outside of the company, we don't lose that? You know, great tools that we've talked about over the last 2 days, excuse me. But it's beyond just the tools. Because sales enablement, we're in the human business. So how do we make sure that we are working with those seasoned legacy folks to, 1, help them groom the newer folks that are coming on in the new hire positions, but also to make them feel valued so that they are adding to the success of the company in a capacity beyond simply revenue. Because certainly most sales folks are coin operated and they're driven by revenue, but not all. So it's understanding how to tap into all of those different avenues of success and also motivation beyond just the revenue piece. And the final piece is orchestration. I believe that sales enablement, we are the translators of dialects and languages. So let me explain that for you. We sit as the hub that spokes out to every other part of the organization. Our job is to be the advocate and the voice of the customer. By show of hands, the folks that are in sales enablement room, how many of you actually go out and visit customers? Fair amount. If you're not doing it, you are doing your company a disservice. Here's why. As that hub that spokes out, as we go out and speak, and when I was in corporate, I made sure that I was seeing as many clients, prospects, and customers as possible, because I think that that is something that gives back to the internal organization in this way. You go out and you meet with prospects, you meet with customers. Come back to product marketing and say, you know what, love the company pitch, it's doing well, but we get to slide 7, it gets a little fuzzy. Kind of slows down the momentum that's going. I see a lot of nods going on. Come back to product management and say, I've talked to 12 different customers and we've had the same request. How do we get that moved up on the release cycle? Come back to HR and say, while we're out with these folks and we're also evaluating the sellers, you're doing a hell of a job of bringing in the right kind of folks that we need. And as we're shifting, we are now progressively seeing a change in those sellers. The messaging and positioning has gotten tight. We now have the right solutions. We've listened to our customers and our prospects, and we've now adjusted our release cycle. We're moving forward at a pace right now that is dizzying. Now, without going out to meet with customers, how do you get that? You don't. So look at all of the things that fall out of place by simply not being a presence out with customers.